All right, welcome everybody to the Tournament Center. I am Paul Cheon, joined here by the captain of Team Mastrop West, Pascal Maynard. You're going to be playing the legacy portion of this.
Yep.
Now, could you talk briefly about your testing coming into this tournament?
So basically, since like the first Pro Tour this year, so like 9 months ago, we knew we had to play Legacy at the end of the year.
Right.
So we kind of split our teams that way, like try to have 2 Legacy specialists. And I used to be a Legacy specialist like 9 years ago when I was not on a Pro Tour.
Right.
And so yeah, we chose me as the Legacy player, and my testing was like, to be honest, I was going to play Grixis Elver. Then 2 cards were banned, and the format went back to what it was like 9 years ago. So I was like, oh, I know that format. I played it before.
Okay.
So just add a few commander cards in it, and so yeah, that's how it started.
Makes a lot of sense. So you decided to play Black-Red Reanimator. Why Black-Red Reanimator?
This is extremely not my type. Like I never not want to sleeve Brainstorm, but it's just really, really powerful, and I could not like deny it. It's just like every time I play it against whatever, and I played against that, I'm like, man, it's so powerful. Might be a reason not to sleeve Brainstorm.
Right.
And we had a testing group with Jarvis Yu and a lot of his friends. He knows like everybody who plays Legacy online and like who has like is a deck specialist. So we. Basically, every time someone wanted to start testing a deck, he would be like, oh, I know the person who plays that deck for like 2 years. So here, have a chat with him. So I was interested in Black-Red Reanimator, and he knew the guy who's the trophy leader on Moto, Eric Landon.
Yeah.
And this guy's been playing Reanimator forever. He knows everything about it. He loves talking about it, which is fun. So we were in a chat and just exchanged like, opening hands of like, what do you do? Do you keep this hand? What do you do in this matchup? How do you sideboard in this matchup, etc.
Right.
So it was extremely productive. So big shout out to him. Thank you.
That's a great thing about playing these eternal formats, by the way. There are people who are just specialists, and if you can reach out to them, that's just so much help as a resource.
Yeah, you gain so much time. Like, if I had to learn everything that I learned up to this point, it would have taken me like 2 months minimum.
Right.
It took me like 2 weeks.
But you got to shortcut your way.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive straight into deck here with the first slide. We got the heavy hitters here. Let's kind of talk about these creatures.
So, 4 Chancellor Dianix, kind of the messed up card in the deck that just like allows you to have nut draws where your opponent cannot do anything.
Right.
Like the deck, I don't know what the exact percentages, but like 75% or something, you win on turn 1. It's very easy.
Wow.
And it's kind of ridiculous. With Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal, everything is so cheap. When you have Chancellor and you're on the play and your opponent has Force of Will, it doesn't do anything. So they need 2, right?
Right.
So this is really good for that. But the reason why it's really good is that it's also just a creature that you can discard and bring back. And it's not bad. Like, it has an ability that force spikes all of your opponent's spells. And in some matchups like Delver, Storm, sometimes just having this on turn 1 is enough to win the game.
Okay.
But you got to be careful. Like, Sword Splasher decks can just deal with it, so it's not that good there.
It's not the ideal reanimation target.
Yeah, it's not the ideal, but it's like, in a
pinch.
Exactly. You don't have Brainstorm and Ponder in your deck, so you need cards that can do multiple things, and this is one of them.
All right.
Gristlebrand, obviously, I don't think I really need to explain that. Like, you just read this.
Pay 7 life, draw 7. Drawing 7 cards is pretty strong.
And it's even better in this deck because you have Dark Rituals and Lotus Petals and like Unmask, a lot of cheap cards. So when you start drawing, you can just shred your opponent's hand, reanimate something else, and then you can't lose. There's some decks that like might lose with a Gristlebrand if they're unlucky. This deck rarely ever happens.
Okay.
Tidespout Tyrant and Ashen Rider are mostly there as like precautions for like main deck ensnaring bridge, like just some pesky permanents that would stop you from attacking, like Caracas would stop you from ever attacking Gristlebrand, stuff like that. So they're just there as like preventions. Also, Ashen Rider is a black card you can pitch.
So this is kind of like the backup plan, right? Like once you have Gristlebrand in play, you draw a bunch of cards, and if they have something like a Caracas, you can actually just eventually draw your deck and find these cards to actually attack through.
Right. The list is fairly like. Most people play this list. The only difference that this list has, it has Ashen Rider, which most people don't have.
Okay.
That's Eric's innovation, basically. He loves playing Therapy over Thoughtseize, and this is really good with Therapy because it has a die trigger, not when there's a battlefield. It's actually relevant.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So he plays that over like Iona and Elesh Dorn.
Yeah. All right, moving on here, we have 4 copies of Entomb and 4 copies of Faithless Looting.
Yeah, those are like basically the 2 best cards in your deck. Like Entomb gets you Gristlebrand, which is the #1 target you want to get, plus your 1 of Tidespout, whatever, for certain situations. We can also get Faithless Looting. In some spots, you need to find a random piece and you have a lot of mana, just get Faithless Looting. You can also get a Cabal Therapy. if you need to flash it back. Because it happens. It doesn't look like it happens because you have dragon creature. You wouldn't think you want to sack them, but sometimes it's the right play. And in the sideboard, you have a Coffin Purge, which you can get with that.
Okay, so a lot more utility than just getting.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. It's just unbelievably good. It's the most important card in the deck.
Right.
Faithless Looting, obviously really good because you want to get stuff in the graveyard. It's great with like Chancellor of the Annex. You get to reveal it, dump it in the graveyard. Even if you don't bring it back, it kind of did two things at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, this has basically just been a powerhouse in all formats that it's legal in.
The reason to not play mono black is just that card is so good in this strategy.
Is this the only red card?
Yeah. Oh. There's a few sideboard cards.
Sure. All right, moving on here, we have the reanimation spells. 4 copies of Animate Dead, Exhume, and Reanimate.
Right. Pretty straightforward. When I started playing the deck, I couldn't understand why Eric was always boarding out Reanimates. We had like a guide, and I was trying to follow it, but there's some things I could not understand, and it was Reanimate, why he was always boarding it out. It's actually the worst card in the deck because you win with Gristlebrand. So you lose life when you cast it, so you can't draw as many cards as Gristlebrand, so like there's a failure rate there if you lost like 8 life. So those cards actually be better. But, Reanimate, you can get a creature from your opponent's graveyard, and there's some... I did something this round 3 actually, where I played Animate Dead on my opponent's Matter Reshaper.
Okay.
I blocked with it, it died, it revealed another Animate Dead, so I got to take another Matter Reshaper that was already in graveyard, and I won the game because of that. I was kind of extremely lucky, but like... There's some things that you can do.
Those are the great times, right? Where like you don't just have the natural perfect draw where you get to reanimate your big thing.
You do
but
things
you just
you've never done
grind
before.
things and find ways to win games, and that is something that you can do with this.
Yeah. So they all have like this is each player, so sometimes it's kind of annoying. They have to bring back something like a Thalia, whatever that you discarded earlier, and
I could see boarding this out in the mirror, for example, right?
Oh yeah, it's really bad in mirror.
All right, moving on here, we have 4 copies of Cabal Therapy and Unmask, and you're talking about how Therapy is not a commonly played card in this deck.
People usually play Thoughtseize, and Eric is in love with Cabal Therapy, and I really understand why, especially main deck, is that you want to lose as the least life possible because of Gristlebrand. So if you have to Thoughtseize yourself, which happens very often, you often play Therapy or Thoughtseize on yourself more than your opponent.
Right.
And Therapy is a much better card at doing that. It's a bit worse at targeting your opponent, however, but the fact that it has flashback, and trust me, that happens more than you would think, is very relevant. And you get to unmask your opponent, so sometimes Therapy is just way better than a Thoughtseize. So there's a lot of applications of Therapy, and I absolutely love it, and good innovation.
It's also one of those cards where if you do test the format a lot, you know exactly what to Cabal Therapy. You're going to Therapy Force of Will.
Also, game 1, there's so few cards that matter in each of your opponent's decks.
Right.
It's such a good deck game 1 that like Therapy is even better because there's like 1 or 2 cards that matters.
Exactly. All right, rounding out the deck here, we have some of the cards that let you kind of cheat on mana. 4 copies of Dark Ritual and Lotus Petal.
Yeah, it kind of speaks for themselves. Like you want to kill your opponent as fast as possible, and Dark Ritual lets you play. You go Dark Ritual, Entomb, or Therapy myself. Then you go Exhume, Animate Dead, or whatever. Lotus Petal, kind of the same things, and those are really important when you go off with Gristlebrand. Like every time I draw 7, I look at the number of rituals and petal that I drew, and I'm like, that's gonna, tell me if I want to draw 7 more or not, or like close the game.
So not only does this help you set up your combo, but even post-combo, it makes sure that you can just completely strip your opponent's hands of any type of interaction once you go off with the Gristle.
I did cast a Gristlebrand like multiple times with Dark Rituals. My opponent has like
just
a cage.
ritual, Gristlebrand?
It happens. You don't need that many lands. You need like 4 lands.
Yeah, I guess you could do that.
That happens.
All right, rounding out the deck, we have, of course, the lands here. We have some fetches. Now, why 2 of each of these lands?
It basically doesn't matter because you only have black dual lands and swamps.
Okay.
So to be optimal, you want to play 2 of each, not get Pithing Needled, which is a card that's actually played in a lot of decks.
Right, and there might be a little bit of deception if you lead with some of these lands, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Optimally, I would play like a bunch of polluted deltas because I want my opponent to think I'm a blue deck.
Right.
But people actually bring in Pithing Needle against me often, so I think that's more optimal.
Oh yeah, Pithing Needle and Gristlebrand is a common thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then of course we have our Badland, Scrubland, and Swamp. So what's the Scrubland in here?
It's because I'm a scrub. I wanted Badlands and Scrublands. No, it's because there's white sideboard cards.
Oh, so
that's
this
pretty
was
common.
because you're bad, and this is because you're not.
Yeah, John's like, you cannot only play Badlands. You need to add a Scrubland to your deck.
Okay.
No, the reason is sideboard cards. Most people play it's white or green. People play Abrupt Decay, so they have 1 value. It's pretty common to have.
And then this is for a different card that we don't have currently. But yeah, there you have it. That was Black-Red Reanimator. We're going to be taking a short break, but right after we'll have plenty more coverage here at Pro Tour 25th Anniversary.